Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Everyone.
How's everybody this fine morning? Just
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
How are you, Dave?
Better now that the audio works and I've heard it.
How long mine lasts, because Skype and Audio Banana do not like each other.
They're special friends. Good morning to everybody. HVAC, Dom, Ben, Stig. Hello. How's your all's week going?
This morning, just checking.
Your mic is a little bit gatey, Greg. You know,
Is it?
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
dropping here and there. Just saying.
Turning completely off.
Hey.
So
Yeah.
there.
Woohoo.
There.
So yeah, we're here. It's Sunday and it's amazing. And welcome. There's some stuff that happened that's really neat. We'll be talking about that soon. But before we get going, and as we always do, we would like to send a special message out to our Patreon supporters. So if you see your name on the list up here, you are awesome. Thank you to Helds for being a tree supporter. And again, thank you to you all for your support on Patreon and actually above and beyond in a lot of the cases on other, donating some stuff for projects and all that stuff.
Makes a lot of stuff happen.
You guys make the wheels turn. We have, if you want to check us out, we're patreon.com/3dmakeit. And we have lots of stuff that goes on there and in the Discord channels. So if you're not too sure what Discord is,
It's a
chat.
really chat service.
Yeah.
You can do audio, you can do video, but we mainly just do chat in there. We haven't actually done a video chat, but
Like,
we could.
I accidentally started a few once. because you click the button, then it's like starting chat, and you're like, oops, I did not mean to start that chat, but hey. So as always, thanks for the TPU's advice last week. I managed to get his 85A printed to the 5 without issues. Prints as easy as piezo slower. Yeah, you'll find that too, Dominic, with TPU, and I'm glad it worked for you. I love my TPU. I use it all the time. Greg, you?
Not as much as I want to. I do want to print some more with TPU. I have some, and it's probably like 9. Is it what is the higher the number, the stiffer it is,
Yeah,
or the? Yeah, I think mine's probably like, I don't know. I think I got it from Spool. I think it's. I want to say it's maybe 95.
Well, I think the higher the number, the more floppy, actually. If I remember.
Okay, maybe it's 55. I don't know. It's soft, but it's not super soft.
Yeah, and like the stuff I got was like the super is basically Ninja Flex, but it says Spool on it.
I have some Ninja Flex too.
Yeah, you got some. You just haven't used it yet, right? Yeah.
But I only had a small bit because it was given to me by someone. So yeah.
The weather's been bad out your way, Stig. It's been okay here. It's summer finally in Canada, so we have about 4 weeks to enjoy it, and then winter will be here.
Yeah, I've actually been enjoying it. It's been warm enough and no rain that I could actually do some trailer stuff. My roof came in for my trailer, so now I'm finishing the inside of the trailer in the next day or so, and then hopefully to the point of doing the roof. We'll see.
It's as we call it in the business, a project.
And I had to print some parts for the trailer. This is our window corner. So I had to reframe the window, and the old corners, some of them had broken. So I've got some new ones to install, and so summer is coming, and we got to get ready for it, and we got other things to announce about summer.
Yeah. So we touched on it last week, everybody, and just before we get into like the nerding stuff, so both Greg and I are avid campers. Well, like I'm more avid, I guess, than Greg at the moment, but like the weekends we camp, we're gone. So that puts a little bit of a wrench into the Sunday morning schedule for the summer.
Yeah. We will be back in the fall on Sundays.
Now we're not going, so it's not like we're going to disappear for the summer. But what we are doing is we're going to move the live stream to Wednesday at 7 p.m. our time, which is Mountain Standard.
Yeah.
So Greg and I were chatting, and I think that works best, right, Greg?
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't work for our European Patreons, just because it's probably like 2 in the morning or something, or 4 in the morning or something for them. So
yeah,
unless early riser.
Yeah, like it's you got to put that pot of coffee on pretty early, but yeah, and again, the Wednesday time change is only for basically the summer. Now, I say summer loosely. If you guys know Canada at all, or southern Alberta at all, summer maybe goes till the end of September. We have that warm weather, and then we're back. So as soon as that weather forces us to
so end of September-ish. We'll announce it, obviously, but end of September-ish, we'll most likely go back to Sundays. So during the summer, we will do that, and we'll still put out videos and whatnot. But yeah, so unfortunately, that's just the way it works, with life and families, and actually a little bit of therapeutic R&R.
Yeah. I mean, we do. We we like everybody here are not robots. Although my little robot on my microphone stand, he's a robot. He's just chilling. But so that's kind of the announcement, and you might see, and you guys are really good at watching it too, because sometimes we decide to just like live stream, and you might actually see like a Sunday or a Saturday still if one of us are around to do it. But that's
Because it does actually rain here in the summer, so there could be a weekend
Yeah.
where we're available. Because I know there's certain people that don't like camping in the rain, but
no names. We'll get in trouble.
so
Yeah.
so if the weather's crappy, we might have a live stream.
Yeah. So basically, come to church on Wednesday and we're good. So some stuff happened this week, and maybe a bit of
specifically yesterday.
yeah, and then some of it was earlier too. But yesterday Greg sent me a message because I was actually moving a porta potty most of the day. Come on, guys! I while camping and watched the ice fishing in the winter, you can broadcast. So we have talked about it. The specific problem with like live streaming specifically for me when we're camping is the show actually is exactly the time where we would be packing up to come home.
And bandwidth is limited where David
Very
is.
limited. Like I might not I
So-
can't watch Netflix. It might not work.
Yeah.
Banff is awesome in the summer. I don't know, like so. Let's touch that one, Greg. Banff is like a mall of a national park. That's how I feel about Banff.
And it's a COVID hotspot.
It is right now, yeah. It's like the worst in Alberta, but Banff is pretty, and if you haven't been there, you should go. It's just one of those things you need to see. But well, I'm usually singing in the rain. Right, Stig? Us too. Right now we're fire band, so we're opposite of rain. It's dry.
But we do have new features in
Yeah.
Marlin
Marlin.
2.0.8.1. A new dot release is out.
That didn't take long.
No, it didn't. And there's just a handful of new features. Most of it was bug fixes.
Yep.
But there's a couple new features. I think the board support was one of the things. So they've added the Big Tree Tech SKR V2 Rev B. So if you got one of the Rev A's with the bad MOSFET, and you haven't done the fix, you still need to do the fix if you want to use it, so you don't fry your 2209s. But they now you define it when you're compiling the firmware, and then it disables the reverse stepper piece that's in Marlin, so that it's not going to try to actively put power to where it shouldn't.
Yeah, like
and fry your chips.
such a good feature, but like that MOSFET made it like the worst
Bad.
feature ever.
Yeah. And with the new chips and the new diagnostic pins that are pretty much on all the chips, it's pretty hard to put them in backwards now.
Yeah, and honestly, Big Tree Tech 2 has always done a really good job of putting the red on one side and the black on the other to match the boards. Like I've never had one that was backwards.
And I suppose it could be, if people are using third-party stepper drivers, that's where the problem comes in.
Well,
But yeah,
like as you guys know, we've been working, and I've actually finished shooting all of the videos. I just got to edit it together now for the closed loop stepper driver, and that adapter. The reason I bring it up, the dip adapter that plugs into the board, it's from Big Tree Tech, but it's blue and black, so it's not their standard red and blue.
Is blue red?
Yes. Yeah. Spoiler alert, yes, blue is red. So the colored side always matches the colored side, and then the black side always, like on those drivers. So it's It still works. It's just like I always just match the EN and the step.
It's definitely nice having new features, but it's also nice when they test them more thoroughly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they've added the octopus board.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. They've officially added the octopus board. Um, and then there's just a number of little other things throughout here. There's new LCD stuff in here. They've for developers they have the new extensible UI, and I believe is that for the new Marlin kind of interface where you can change the graphics and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, you are.
But there's only a few screens that support that right now. I think it will become more popular, so they've kind of rearranged it in there, and then we've got quite a few bug fixes. We've got I don't know, like 30 or 40 bug fixes,
Yeah.
maybe.
And the bug fixes aren't uncommon, right? Like
No, that's pretty normal.
that's why they have a bug fix chain, and then once it gets good enough, it makes it to the release. The thing
I'm thinking the Big Tree Tech release with the big was the big reason for the .1 release.
I think you're right. And then if you look to like there are bug fixes and all the stuff, but they've actually added into and I don't know, maybe we'll throw this question at you guys in the chat. But how many of you use the build and upload feature in VS Code, like just the widget, the plugin there? They've added boards to that basically to make it more stable. So
Right.
that's probably one of the and the boards they've added are ones that people actually use, like the SKR Mini E3 and stuff like that. It's what am I drinking? It's Pepsi, not sponsored, Max. Although they don't call it Max anymore, so it's called
Pepsi Zero.
Sugar. Yeah, and it's basically the energy drink version of Pepsi.
Not sponsored.
It's good. I like it, man. But yeah, it's full of caffeine to get me going in the morning. I'm not a. Let's put it this way. Until this happened on Sunday, I slept till like noon, 1. I relished it, and my wife was kind enough to let me do that. But so we had a dot release in Marlin, and we saw exactly what Dr. Pepper Zero here. Yeah, Dr. Pepper. Greg and I both like Dr. Pepper, but we can't get it. Like it can get it, but you can't.
It's hard to get.
So
You got better flavors in the States,
Yeah.
I gotta say, Dr. Pepper.
up here we don't have choices. So, and then I guess honorable mentions, and I don't know if these are still honorable mentions in Marlin, guys, but they are fixes, and so like stuff like the SD card connection failures on like literally the SKR boards, all of them, they fixed that, right? And there's just some other fixes in there. One of the interesting things that I always find in Marlin, and this is true back to I think 1.8, was the power
Right.
loss recovery one feature when they added that in.
Yep.
If you guys don't know what it does, or I guess have been under a rock, if your printer loses power during print, when it turns back on, Marlin goes, "Oh, you were printing this. Do you want to continue?"
Right.
Works every time, right, Greg?
Right. Well, no.
No,
It okay. It kind of does.
I've had it work a few times. Right?
I don't relish using
Right.
it. How's that?
Like honestly, with that specific feature in Marlin, and it's something directly related to the SD card, it works ish, but what it actually ends up doing is burning out your SD cards like 5 times faster than they should, and
That's true because it's always writing to them.
and if you guys have problems in vase modes or particularly fast prints, that can cause you issue and pausing as the SD card's getting updated, and then it's like it's gotta wait for the I/O to finish before it can actually send more stuff to the controller. So,
Right.
it's one of those features that like I always look at when they update like SD cards and I/O drivers and you know all that stuff. And actually, there's actually quite a few of those in this update list. It's like you could save yourself SD cards and time. Unfortunately, not money. Maybe I don't know. An SD card's pretty cheap, but filament can be expensive, and if you have to restart, right?
Yep. Well, honestly, so I added the UPS from Big Tree Tech to my Ender.
Yep.
And the only thing that I could say negative about it is when I want to reboot my board and I shut off the power, it stays on for a long time.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
So it's pretty good. Like the little capacitors stay charged really good. So if you had that plus a UPS, you definitely wouldn't get an interrupt at all.
Yep.
with you know a dip in power or anything. So yeah, no, and it works not too bad. I'm not sure if I'd put it on any other printers, but yeah, it works all right.
Yeah, like I have my the biggest printer, the SX4 that I have is hooked to a UPS. The interesting part about the UPS, this is a side topic, nothing to do with Marlin, guys, but the UPS, even at the bigger, aren't actually rated to run the printers because of the frequency pull of the power supply. Whoa.
Right.
Whoa. So, like, if you actually blow out your UPS, and I've seen it actually on a few Reddit forums where they're like, yeah, UPS wouldn't warranty my UPS because I cooked the controller. You're like, oops. Mark Taylor's here in the house. Sorry, Mark Taylor 500. Hey, buddy. Yeah, so that's kind of like the long short of it. There's been SD card fixes to extend your life, maybe disable, and lots of people have, it looks like. And remember, Marlin has like an eco mode on the controller too. That's not new, but did we get everything important in Marlin there? I think we did.
I think so. There was there wasn't anything like earth shattering. I think like I said, there's some new features, but the new features are like there's like 6 new features. So there's a position auto report, laser cutter air assists, some more UI stuff, some more LCD kill requests, a new mesh bedeling for mesh wizard for UBL. There's a third serial port which could be kind of useful now that we get Wi-Fi and a few other things on these boards. An extra serial port, because technically you use an extra serial port to communicate with the screen and whatnot. So we were kind of serial constrained somewhat. So a third support is cool, but again, you have to have a board that supports it. And then there's an instant freeze and resume function, which I didn't really get into what it does, but that's the highlights of the what's new. So
yeah, and Ben mentioned a huge one is the filament load fix. So they did update M600 and how it can do auto advance, but there was a bit of ironically a bug introduced in 2.08, and I think a lot of it actually had to do with the support they wanted to add for doing that cold. So, but it's fixed, and yeah, it's a great feature now. And if you haven't seen it, we have a video on M600 how to set it up, and
it works really well.
Ben also says like power loss recovery is a marketing gimmick, and he is definitely right.
I would 100% agree with that, because really turn it off. If you don't need it, turn it off.
And like Creality specifically, I'm naming a name now, and Anycubic are kings to add. If power loss failure recovery on their webpage and they take credit for it, and it's like, wait, that's a feature in Marlin. Come on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the Marlin thing. If you guys updated to 2.0.8 and it works and you're happy with it and you're not using like the filament change, you don't have to change again. You know that. We say that all the time.
I just upgraded and I was ready to do the next printer, so I guess I'm going to go to 0.8.1 on all my other printers that I'm going to be updating, because I'm going through and I'm turning on some new features and whatnot. So it's like, well, if I'm doing that, I might as well go to the latest version.
And that's just it. If you're doing like a new build, yeah, don't go to the old version. Go to new. But I waited so long on that SX4, Greg. Like it was on 2.5, and I'm like, I'm going to holding out.
I have 2.6 on Bumblebee, so it's time.
Oh, by the way, when we say 0.5, we actually mean 0.5, but we're lazy and we skip the 0.
Yeah.
My trick for power loss recovery is don't print during a storm. That's a good trick.
Dan, that's very, very wise.
That's a really good trick. I guess in Alberta, in our area, we have a lot of wind power, and like that can actually like mess with your printer. Your power might not go out, but it might crank hard enough from the system, get a backfeed, and then it'd be like, oh, I lost power. What? No.
We had, it's the spring storms that tend to mess with us, but yeah. But there's another .1 release, David.
There is, yeah. And it's not like as exciting, I guess, as Marlin.
But there's all 4 things that are new.
Yeah. Guys, 4 new things new in Kira 4.9.1.
Well, sorry, 1 new thing and then 4 bug fixes.
Yeah, and honestly, probably like none of these fixes affect 90% of the people out there. Hello, Thomas.
Hello, Thomas.
How you doing? Ben, I'm gonna look into that. If Creality truly did make it and Marlin adopted it, that makes sense and it's amazing. I just wanna that'd be a good thing to know. But yeah, Kira 4.9. The biggest thing that's actually a fix that would affect you is if you used IDEX or dual extrusion, and they fixed the timing issue that puts a blob of filament at the end. That's it. The other ones are like they fixed the QML language extension, right? And Mac. If you use a Mac with Kira, they fixed the file reading, and if I remember correctly, it was the X drive. Greg, talk.
Yes, the X drive. It was crashed. So when you first set up Windows, it uses a drive to kind of configure itself, and for some reason, in their greatest wisdom, they decided to like query the X drive, and it was causing problems. Yeah. So now they've taken that feature out because it was silly to have in there in the first place.
Yeah, so it's gone. And basically, the QML fix was added by field of view, it looks like, and yeah, it works a little bit better. So if you open Kira, don't be afraid of the pop-up.
And crashing on the Mac happens less now.
Macs don't crash. They have the rainbow wheel of happiness.
No, Kira crashing on the Mac.
Oh, okay. Because, yeah, that was my favorite thing back in the day. Macs don't crash. They just get the wheelie circle.
The beach ball of death.
Yeah. It's so much fun. Now, this week, guys, last week when we saw you, Greg and I had actually just come off the tail end of doing like a workshop with like a bunch of people, and Mark Taylor in the chat, if he's still around, is actually there too. Thomas was there too, right? And then this week we've come off of what we like to call the advanced workshop, and that was a much more cozier workshop.
Yeah, we had what, 6 people plus us kind of thing.
Yeah, and you know, in that one we talk a lot about it's something that we've talked about on the channel a lot, slicers and slicer settings, right? And
It was a very deep dive, nerdy, and amazingly, no one fell asleep.
I did.
There was a couple times I thought we lost a few people, but they toughed it out through our nerdy deep dive discussions on slicers, and then some fusion. Fusion, I think, was probably the biggest thing in that afternoon.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Like, and that whenever you show fusion too, it's one of those things, and this is why we bring this whole topic up. It's one of those things that can take a very long time to actually like progressively learn, and it's something that we're actually revisiting in workshops to come, like
Yeah.
for our local area here. But I'm just curious right now to like I think how many people are using Fusion right now? Like Ben and Stig and HVAC if you're still here, Dominic is the discussion. So, no, kind of. So the thing is we were hired by a private company to put on these workshops, basically. So they're not like public to the intertubes yet. We have toyed with, however, doing kind of a Patreon version
Yeah,
of
we
such
totally
a thing,
could
right? So
do that. Um, yeah, we'd have to pick a time that works for everyone, but all our patrons, but or we pre-record it and then just make
release
it
it on the
available to
Patreon.
them,
Yeah,
because the main things is we go through the slicing basics, right, and then we go through more. David did a fairly in-depth demo of fusion and whatnot. So we may need to, and we've kind of talked about this, refine it a little bit, and just here's specifically kind of what we're following, so that it's maybe a little more polished. I don't know, but I think people got a lot out of it, and the reason we choose fusion for these is our the education, K to 12 universities and whatnot, gets fusion for free, the full version. And so that's why we focus on that. It's not that we and because we're both in education, we qualify for it, so we use it a lot. So we're most familiar with that. We're not opposed to using anything else like FreeCAD or what is it, SCAD, right?
yeah, Open SCAD. Like we we use the Gambit. Yeah, I when Dominic said he uses Open SCAD, my next question was, "Are you a programmer?" And he goes, "Yep." Open SCAD is really great for people who like to like procedurally generate models with programming language. Awesome, it's fun. So Thomas has a question there.
Yeah, I see that he's been having some jams, and I actually was addressing that similar issue for someone else, and it ended up being two things for him. One, he put the wrong size nozzle on, and two, the PTFE tube wasn't as tightly pushed down to the nozzle as it should have been. So, and if you are using the spool filament, I'd increase your temperature to 210 to 215 myself.
Yeah, and that's actually probably good for any of the filament we sent out. Is a little bit hotter. 210 is a good PLA print temperature.
And if you got the Matter 3D filament, David, what should you be printing it at?
Well, that's debatable because we've had a few different, we've had varying results on a few different temperature towers actually. So, my stuff is like 230, 235.
Well, see, and on kit with non-all-metal hot end, it's just a regular ender. 225 prints really nicely. Like this is printed on 225, and it works really good. So it depends on the filament you got, but yeah, definitely be aware that if it's standard PLA 210 to 215, if it's the Matter 3D, 220 to 235.
Yeah. Yeah, and Stig's saying like his PLA is around 235, and I don't disagree. Like I do, and remember your ender hot ends, like so the PTFE lined hot ends are actually like safe to like 240, 245 until they're actually like harmful for like smaller things in the house like birds and pets and stuff. But the faster you print, and Stig Stig enjoys printing fast. I know he's like me. The hotter you print, just so you can get the volumetric flow happening correctly.
Yeah. So Thomas, just check which brand you have, whether it's the M3D, because there's two brands that went out with our course, the M3D and the Spool 3D. So if it's the M3D, 235, if it's the Spool, 215. So
Yeah, and then Ray says too, he prints all of his. So if you don't know, when we say spool, there's a company by us called Spool. It's not like literally like a spool of PLA. We're being very specific in that it's spool.
It's Spool 3D branded.
And hashtag not sponsored. And Ray says PLA at 215 and his Pet G's at 235 and ABS is at 240. And Raymond actually has one of maybe like, I would call it the third or fourth upgrade you may do to an Ender or a Creality machine. Is a Micro Swiss all metal hot end. I know I know some people hate all metal hot ends, so I don't set that in stone. If you still want to use the PTFE stuff,
yeah, I'm having a little frustration with mine at the moment, but I'm still haven't got my my V6 printing right with its all metal. So I did a temperature tower. Yep. I followed a video that some guy had on YouTube that he did on temperature towers, and because I'm just trying to troubleshoot this, and I think I got my temperature right, but I'll play with retraction a little bit more.
Yeah. And guys, too,
I have the retraction on a CR10. Yeah. Down to 1.5.
Yeah, through the Bowden tube, too, guys.
Through a Bowden tube. This is not direct drive. So I'm gonna pump it up to a retraction of 2, and we'll see. Yep. But when I went higher than 2, I was getting jamming through my all metal. So keep in mind that you've got to reduce your retraction when you go all metal, but you don't want to reduce it too low. Yep. Which I think I have mine too low. So we'll tweak it a little more.
So the other thing that can get you while you're printing is heat creep. Now that usually occurs due to cooling or so there's a few different things, and so cooling is the front fan on an Ender. A specific, I think Thomas, the Ender, it's harder to see on the Ender 3 V2, and yeah, Ben just mentioned it too. The front fan needs to be spinning to cool down the hot end. It's a bizarre concept, because if it gets hot, it won't work. It just jams, and that's it. You got to cool the top while it's hot at the bottom. Well, so
I'm a little concerned that maybe going with this switching out the stock heat break with the E3D heat break, that it's maybe getting some heat creep. Like maybe that's what my problem is, because it has cooling, but it's got that huge plastic shroud around it that comes on the CR10 V2, and I'm wondering if it's just not quite enough airflow for the heat break, and so I'm gonna have to revisit that and see if I can maybe get some more airflow going through. So
and if so, a lot of people replace the fans in those shrouds at the front of their printer in an effort to make it quieter. So there's that reason to upgrade it. But there's also the it's broken and not turning reason. And so this
Yep.
little fan here is by Orion. It's Orion Fans. It's nice and cool. I was recommended this fan actually by my friend Raymond, who's in the chat. It's from Spool, but yeah, you can get it. It's a 4040 fan, or a 4010, I should say, fan. And yeah, it works. It's a nice little fan. Lots of people also put on other fans from Noctua, but that requires a little more work. And then there's a very big argument that always happens over Noctua fans don't move enough air to cool a
Right.
hot end, and I will speak from my personal experience, and that is I've never had a problem with any of my printers that use a Noctua fan for cooling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm just not sure that, like, because of the way that it works on here, I'm not sure if I need to, because it you can either suck out of the one side and it pulls from the front and then out the side through the heat break. I'm not sure if it needs to blow in or blow out, or if I need to put a second fan so one's blowing out and one's blowing in so that I get more airflow. I'm just either that, or the other option is, and David and I talked this morning, maybe I'll just put this on.
Yeah, maybe that'll happen. Yeah, I totally agree with Ben's statement too. I've seen this Ben too on my SX4 when I was using a 3010. Not enough cooling. 4010 was the answer. So that could be
Right.
the fix, right?
And it has a 4010.
Is it a 40 in that blue thing? The blue thing?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it's one of those.
I'm wondering like if the size isn't just off enough. You know what I mean? Like if it's not just offset to be ineffective, like just by a millimeter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's they, although they look very similar, the heat breaks, the fins are slightly different,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm just wondering if that's the issue, because I mean I've kind of gone through everything else that you normally would,
Yep.
and it's still problematic. And I haven't read a lot about people throwing a E3D V6 in this. So
Yeah, I'd almost like for me, I'd almost be interested to see what would happen if you put like a Hero Me or the Satsana cooler on it instead of like that stock one. But like the overall, I mean, cooling is something that has to occur, and if it doesn't,
yeah,
right? Like,
and I am having a, and I don't know again if it's because the E3D has the stubbier nozzle, then the CR10 they have the longer pointier nozzle, right? And I'm getting some cooling issues, like the front bow is not printing as nice with this hot end, and so the regular cooling seems to be off too since I put this in. So
yep.
so I got a number of things. So I might just bite the bullet and do throw some fusion up and do a redesign.
We're about halfway bottom. Well, actually, we're more than halfway through an hour, but that won't stop us from going. But hey, remember, subscribe, like, share, do all those fun things on the YouTubes, and
The thumbs up makes a big difference.
Definitely.
And all your chatting here makes a big difference. So we appreciate all you for participating in our live streams, because it also makes them a lot more interesting because we get some great questions from everyone. So
yeah,
we
and
really appreciate
great conversation. You guys are always awesome. Great. You are a great bunch of people to hang out with on a Sunday morning. Stig says a 4010 fan on my V6 has just reached around 35, printing at 250 measured on the top. So, yeah, so he's saying that the the heat sink, so that's the part with all the fanny blades in it on your hot end there, is 35 degrees, which is great. The idea of the
Yeah.
cooling is to keep it below the bed transition temperature. So like the 60
Right.
on PLA or 78-ish on Petchy, right? And I had
Yeah.
the same problem, right? This week, Greg was not alone in his struggle to print uh, Benchy. I had my SX4. I printed some spoons for my wife. Put it in the fridge. Yeah, that's true enough. Good one. Anyway, I printed some spoons, and they actually curled off the bed a bit, and then tore the silicone sock. That's all it did. It grabbed the silicone sock off the bottom of an E3D, tore it, and that was it. From that point forward, I could not print without. Eventually, I had to put a new sock on it.
Thermal runaway.
Yeah, and it was because as soon as the stock cooling fans came on for the part cooling, the blowers were directed correctly away, but air's hitting the bed, which means it's coming back up too. And yeah, it couldn't keep up, so it triggered runaway protection, which is a bummer for me, but figured it out, got it working, printed a giant thing the other day. I was happy. So you were not alone, Greg. It was a weird week for everybody, and little things like that you wouldn't even think of, because I don't know, like I've been how many people, and this is like probably almost all the people here, have been printing long enough that like your first hot ends were Kapton tape and cotton. If anything, some of them were just, right, like Kapton tape, cotton, or nothing. Is it buffering? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I've checked out the I have a stream going and I'm not seeing it. Maybe try a refresh.
I'm just it looks okay.
Yep.
I think maybe Stig might be buffering on Stig.
Oh,
maybe. It looks fine. I've got good connection to YouTube and it says happy. Yeah, and I mean, the community exists, Thomas, like, no buffering, no. I did that last week and that confused everybody, remember, with the little thing in chat. Greg, I don't think I heard you. In fact, I'm sure I didn't hear you. Greg's going to reset something.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better. Well, I have to use my cell phone to connect the computer to the internet. Oh, that would explain it. Definitely Kapton tape and cotton. Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, we've moved on from it, and like the silicone boots are great for PETG because they keep all that boogery deposit off of the hot end, right?
Right.
So it's really good for that. But yeah, the cotton and Kapton worked for years. And I never had a failure on that. But you do need something to protect from the airflow coming back up and dipping below your thermal protection timeout.
Absolutely.
So, and you guys, if you don't know, you can change the thermal protection timeout period in Marlin. So
I had to do that when originally with the with my Anycubic because I kept getting thermal runaway even with the heat sock and everything. I had to just change the timing slightly in the advanced. Once I did that, all of a sudden I didn't get thermal runaway. So it was kind of weird. But yeah, you can tweak it.
And
just be careful.
Yeah. Like when I so Greg and I built the SX4 on the channel here. It's that giant Core XY thing. We had a video on it. And like I had to increase the thermal runaway on the hot end because the quality of the heater cartridge that came with that thing sucked. So it was 240 seconds. So it wouldn't trip thermal runaway if it was in the range of 5 degrees plus or minus of what you wanted for 240 seconds. And like literally it took that long for it to catch up, even being PID'd, and eventually it switched to an E3D, and now that's not a problem. Yeah. We need a silicone sock with visual aesthetics of Kapton tape. Oh yeah, Get some transparent silicone and then slightly hue it yellow,
Oh,
right? We're doing this.
there you go.
We're figuring this out.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah, and thermal runaway protection, it's something too that you have to be comfortable with. Now, if you've recently got an Ender 3, like since the Pro or better, so or a new CR10 after the CR10S or better, and I think they started flashing the firmware now too to a newer version, but like you just basically have the default timeout setting, which is kind of low, but at the same time,
Right.
this is one of those things. Is it better to have it low and go off quicker, or is it better to set it longer and let a fire start and then have it turn off?
I would say don't do the fire starting thing, but
Yeah,
that's just personal. Yeah,
it's
to each their own.
yeah, yeah. And for all the guys that are streaming on your phones, we do broadcast the stream at a 1080p. So you might have to, if you're watching on your phone, I would suggest like bounce down, 480, and then it might clear it up. You might not see our glorious, pretty faces in high definition anymore, but that's the price to pay.
That's true.
Right?
It's true.
Pick up the marshmallows. So when you're dealing with small changes to your printer too, and I just throwing this out here, guys. M303 is your friend.
And one change at a
Yeah,
time.
one change at a time. It's very tempting to go, I got this new printer, I'm going to buy 45 new parts, I'm getting a metal extruder, an all-metal hot, and new fans, flexible PEI sheet, I got the new bed springs, right? And you're super excited, and we get it. But if you change everything at once and you don't know which one broke anything, and then it becomes like Duck Hunt. You remember Duck Hunt way back? Yeah, shooting a little doggy. Yeah, Duck Hunt.
The little dogs laughing at you.
Yeah, Duck Hunt. Yeah, so M303, I mentioned it, and Ben agreed in the holiest of fashions at 3D Printing Church. M303 is your PID setting. So if you don't like PID, basically, and I always forget the acronym. It's fine though. Post integral derivation or something like that. I don't know. It's close enough. But it sets the timing.
It's tuning.
Yeah, tuning timing of your hot end and bed. So fun fact, only printer in my room here, and we are going to do a room tour. I was talking with Raymond. He's like, you should do it. I'm like, but it's just a room. Like literally, all my printers are right beside me. But we're gonna do one. But of all the
David went away. I can't hear
Hello,
David.
I'm here.
Oh, there. Now
Okay,
you're back.
good. The big one, the SX4, I cannot leave on PID bed tuning. I had to change it back to Bang Bang just because the lights in here, it was like a discotheque, and I was afraid I was going to have a stroke. So
Well, but you're also using, you have a MOSFET in there, or external MOSFET,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I do.
On it, so that could be one of the reasons too, because an external MOSFET may not like being PID.
But come to think of it, now that we
much,
say that out loud, I haven't changed it since we put the MOSFET in. It was doing that on the SSR. I sense an experiment coming my way. I sense an experiment. If you tear your silicone sock, you could avoid thermal runaway with M303. And kind of, yes. And I tried it, and it worked for a bit, but then it cooled again, and it was like, no. So eventually I just put a new silicone sock, and that fixed my problem. But M303, aside from like M503, M303 is your second most useful thing, I think.
Yeah.
And then after that, if you have an AVL.
Oh, M500.
Yeah, 500 is important. And 504. These aren't random numbers, by the way. So if you're wondering,
Well, they could be.
I guess, right? But so M303 sets the PID settings. There's a few more garbly goops that you gotta throw behind, like cycles, temperature, which hot end. But M303 sets PID. M500 saves your controller information. So that's the same thing as you going on like your little clicky screen and going save. in the configuration part. And then M504 is one of my favorite ones. And that one actually verifies the version of your firmware. So it checks
Right.
what you're running versus what you think you're running. And then it says, yeah, you're good. But yeah, so anything in the M500s is good, and M303. 500s tell you stuff. M303 sets stuff. And then obviously if you have a probe, right, there's M851.
Yeah.
But all of these numbers, like there's 10 important ones out of the hundreds of lines that you could pick from.
And if you don't know already, awesome resource on Marlin. If you go to the Marlin site, you can go there and they have what all these mean. It's a great resource. Highly recommend you bookmark it, because it really lays out exactly what everything does. So if you go to tools and then where is it here? Or is it tools or help? It's under help. And then it says G code. You click on that and it gives you all your G codes, and you can get a really good description of what it does, how to use it. Highly recommend keeping this on hand, because I don't know about you, David, but there's times I want to do like turn off my software end stops and I don't remember that it's 211.
Yeah, M211S. Which one are you again? And the cool part with the G code too, like if you just issue M211, it'll tell you if it's on or off. If the command would take arguments, if you issue the command without any arguments, it just gives you your current settings, right? Poof.
Yeah.
Poof.
So it's totally worth having this as a resource for everyone, because it's so handy to have, and they've done such a great job showing it off. So I'm going to throw it in chat just so people have it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have
I'm just gonna.
it's in chat now.
Ooh, it's chatted. So Stig said, would it help changing a MOSFET with an SSR? I went from an SSR to a MOSFET. SSRs are technically faster than a MOSFET, but they have their own issues too.
And technically, you really want the SSR for an AC bed, right? So if you have an AC bed, you'll use an SSR. Yeah. That's whereas the MOSFET, the real reason why they always used to put the external MOSFETs in was the onboard MOSFET was crap.
It was garbage, and
it would burn up your board. So then what they would do is you needed to run a higher version of the MOSFET, so you'd have a external MOSFET with a nice large heatsink, and then you would then connect it to your regular MOSFET, and then it would just trigger it on and off.
Yeah,
so that's
signal.
So that worked really good. Like so I didn't burn up my house on the ANET. I had one both on the hot end and the bed. Yep. Because the board originally was not great, but nowadays everything is they use a lot higher quality components on most of the boards, whether it's in MKS board, the newer ones, or the Fly or whatever. Any brand, you pick a brand, they're most likely using a higher quality set of MOSFETs. Yeah. So it's less of an issue. But if you're going AC, you definitely need an SSR.
Yeah, and Stig says too, and it's good to get it out there. He says my CR10S uses a MOS, or his Pro and the Max use MOSFETs, and they do, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only SSRs are quicker. However, if they fail open, generally, which means power just goes and goes and goes, and it's amazing, and the MOSFETs generally fail closed, but in future printers, I honestly think we're just going to see more SSRs.
Yep.
And it's fine. It's fine.
I got one right here.
Yeah, I got like 4 or 5 somewhere. and Stig, I'll just throw it out there. The problem Greg and I were solving with the SX4, because we bought a bunch of them too, was when
They were built
yeah.
wrong.
So when the whoever was the person who engineered the circuit design for the power that leaves the for the bed, I should say, had the SSR turning the power supply on and off.
Oh man, and it was like, oh, that's so hard on the power supply. You want the bed turning on and off, not the power supply. And so we put a MOSFET in there. We also, what else did we do?
Oh.
We made it safe in another way, David.
Yeah, like that printer was not grounded, so we had to add grounding stuff to both. It has, so like many bigger format printers, like the Chiron or like my SX4, they often have 2 power supplies, and neither one was grounded. Just so y'all, fair disclosure.
I only have one in mine now. I got rid of the other one because it failed.
Yeah, and
I was too cheap to buy another power supply, so I just wired it all to the one, and it works great.
Yeah,
it was 1,000-watt power supply in a printer,
and that's just it.
1,000 watts.
At max draw, my 400 and 400 bed is like 650 watts. So like the 1,000-watt power supply in there is more than enough juice to actually power both. It's just it was a comfort thing, I think, for people.
Yeah, I think because when I did the calculations, like you could have got, a 500-watt power supply for the bed, and then another small power supply. But you put 1,000-watt power, and it's not a Meanwell, but it's like another brand that's really high up there with Meanwell.
Yeah, it's like that blue and green sticker. That's all I know.
I can't remember, but it's a good quality. But it's 1,000 watts. Yep. Like that's way overkill. Well, and then they had a little like 24-volt power brick that was wired just to power the board. It was cute, but it failed.
And so they use the same power supply in the Predator, and there's only one, like that 1,000-watt one. So, but it was cute. It was like powering your laptop.
Yeah.
But so that's the story, I guess, and the reason why there's a MOSFET in my SX4 now. I could have put an SSR there. It would be faster as a relay. But again, it's one of those things where I like MOSFETs because when they blow up, they shut off, generally speaking. The CR10S Pro got a 500 watt, and that's more than enough. You are right. My CR10S runs off of a 350, and that's more than enough. Right, like the biggest draw a printer has is during startup. So you need to make sure that when you first hit print, there's enough juice to heat the bed and the hot end. Once they're at temperature, the maintenance mode, it's probably like I should hook it up to a thing, but like I can't see a 3D printer using more than a 60-watt light bulb once it's running. When it's starting, yes, lots more, but I don't think it would use very much running. Take that to the bank, YouTube.
That's true.
Oh my goodness, what did I just say and start, Greg? Who knows? But yeah,
lawsuits are on their way.
Oh my goodness. Again, too, we're talking about power supplies and changing MOSFETs and SSR, which generally means getting close to live voltage. Be careful
when you're in there.
I mean, I like to keep myself all the time. You guys seen it on camera. I'm used to it. But you shouldn't be. So be careful while you do.
Yeah, David, stop. Well, I have a blister.
Oh, blister on my
right
finger.
There. Because hot things are hot.
Yeah, they are.
I was working on my hot end and had it heated up to tighten everything down, and I was changing the fan, moving stuff around, and all of a sudden I was like, ow, oh yeah, it's hot.
Son, crap. Last night I looked at my oven because we made some snacks late at night, and it was like 400 Fahrenheit. I'm like, well, that's just 200 degrees C. I touch that all the time on the hot end. Grab the pans.
Don't do it.
I did it. They came out nice. Now, before we wrap up for another successful Sunday, thanks for joining us, by the way. I want to say a huge thank you again to our Patreon supporters. Helge, thank you very much for being a true supporter. If your name is up on the screen, you are awesome as well. Patreon.com/3dmakeit is where all the fun happens. No, I'm just kidding. It is where a lot of things happen behind the scenes, and we post stuff and we talk in the Discord all the time. And
absolutely,
if you guys are interested in, we can do a session just kind of similar to the event stuff we run at other places. If you would find use or interest out of that, like, we wouldn't per se charge, but maybe a Patreon membership for the month would be the entry into the workshop kind of idea. And
we can work something out, I think. And we'll debate, like, I don't know if we want to do it live or if we want to do, well, we'll have to figure that out. So, and
just so you guys know, this is like fair disclosure too. Those workshops run for 8 hours.
They're long workshops. So it's not
pack a lunch.
because we answer questions and go down rabbit holes and whatnot, but even the demos, just because there's so many of them that we're doing, there's a lot to cover, so it is a full day.
So I just that's what it is. I just posted a picture. I shared this picture with Greg earlier, but we'll leave you guys with this picture. This is what happens when you buy an Ender 3 Pro and live in Australia and forget to flip the red button. It releases the smoke.
Well, typically they normally come with the red button flipped.
Yeah,
but
he must have unflipped it, because usually, like, when we get them up here, we're always like, we have to change them from 240 to 110. And yeah, like Ben says, in North America, you're not as at risk, but be careful. But I think, you know what? That probably does us for the day, guys.
I think it does.
I think that's it.
It was definitely lovely chatting with you all, and I get to go out and install my window spacers on my trailer and go do some more construction. Hopefully you guys have projects and stuff you are going to be doing today.
Have fun on a Sunday, right?
Yeah, and we will see well, I don't know. Are we going to see them next weekend?
I won't be here.
So
guys,
I guess see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, so like in 9 days we'll see you.
Yeah, Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Yep, Wednesdays at 7, or wherever you are. Convert that. That's 7 Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah, and remember that's just for the summer, which for us is around 4 months. and then we'll return to our regular scheduled Sunday broadcast.
Yep.
In the fall.
Our regular broadcasting hours. Boop. Okay. You guys have a good one. We'll see you later.